All right, welcome to my weekly English lesson, which I'm really just doing for fun, kind of, and I hope you enjoy it. But I did miss last week's, but I'm going to try to do both of them back to back right now if I have enough time. So I like to talk about what I did last week, and it's something quite, well, I can't say it's rewarding just yet, but I am expecting it to be extremely rewarding, and that is planting rice. So I'm going to show you the whole process throughout these next several months. Of course, rice is cheap and it's easy to obtain, but the process is quite complex to some degree. I mean, for only ending up with rice at the end of the entire cultivation process. So I started with this, making these little mud patches. This is the smaller, there's two, there's one other. I'm going to show you this video of my son and I working on clearing out a patch to plant our rice. So here we go. I'm going to show you this little video. My son here is, we'll bring it up here. He said there's a treasure chest under here. So he started digging a lot. He started digging really, really hard. And because he saw in a cartoon somewhere that somebody found a treasure chest and he sees that we're digging. So he really got involved. And that was quite cute indeed. And then we did lots of things. I took a little bath, as you can see. There are some videos just showing different once we get this well water going, we just can flood it, and we need to keep it. The whole point is that we need to keep it wet throughout the entire process. So anyway, in this format, it's actually difficult to share my videos like I do with my students, and I can just send them in ahead of time. I do post my videos to different places, YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. So I won't go too much into that. I want to get to the English lesson part. So here we are talking about appreciating the simple things in life. So I'll read it and we'll do the exercises together. Growing rice is a delicate process that requires attention and care. First, we clear a small mud patch, big enough for a family's need. This isn't a vast space, but it's significant. We dig up this area, removing all the unwanted weeds. The sides are built high to ensure that they retain water. The patch must remain moist daily for several months, and we must consistently remove the weeds that grow. When it's time to harvest, we take the rice husks and pound them to break open their shells. Using a fan, we blow away the light leaves and other debris. At the end of this meticulous process, we're left with rice. Although rice might seem like a basic and often overlooked food, its cultivation is complex. Only by experiencing the process firsthand can we truly appreciate the value of this staple substance. And that's what I'm saying, like all this process, right? And this is the first time. I haven't done it yet, so I'm not an experienced rice farmer at all. This is my first time. There'll be some trials and tribulations, but my wife, of course, does. She's leading the way. She's kind of telling me what to do. She has some knowledge, but she hasn't done it either from start to finish. Growing our own rice. Very few people actually do it unless they're rice farmers, but then you have the equipment and you're probably using chemical fertilizers and all that stuff. That's the whole purpose here. I want to know that I can produce my own rice, and I also do want to know that my rice is being grown properly. And to grow stuff from your land, I'm already saying it's rewarding, even though I haven't even, they're just sprouts right now. So we're going to talk about the definition here of these words. The words delicate, harvest, moist, meticulous, staple, retain, debris, right? I could go back if students have problems, I go back, I highlight them, I let them read it in context to try to get the answer. The definitions are there. Paying careful attention to detail. Main or important, especially regarding food. Slightly wet, fragile, or easily broken. To keep or hold, to gather crops, scattered pieces of waste. I bring up different pictures of, I show this word, I say debris. For this one, debris is usually used to talk about things in destruction. I always type in a word, image. Okay, if I type in the word debris, this is what you're going to get. You're not going to get rice husks. But in the context of the story, we're talking about the wasted material that we don't use. Usually when we hear about debris, it's from like a natural disaster. It could be chunks of cement from an earthquake or bomb attack on a building, and floods, tornadoes, all leaving debris behind. You'll see things like space debris, of course, satellites, broken rocket ships orbiting in space and whatnot. That could all be considered debris. So that's a word I do like to really focus on. The other word is staple. Of course, staple is a noun if it's the thing inside of a stapler. A stapler is also a noun. It staples staples. So staples is a verb. It's a stapler staples staples, basically. But in this context, that's not what we're talking about. And it's important to know the difference between stable, right? They do talk about stable, and I always bring it up in, I show staple and stable. I always do that, of course, whatever language you're using. Some of my listeners may be more likely Thai. I am teaching Chinese most of the time, so I always have that back and forth. But staple and stable actually are related in this sense. I don't know if that word is being used correctly or not. That's why I ask them, look at their word, the word that they get when I translate it, have them explain it to me. Sometimes it's not, and then I have to explain it. Staple, like for instance, it sounds like staple is to keep or hold. That actually makes sense. That wouldn't be incorrect, but that's not the right answer I'm looking for. If you look at them all, you'll find them. Let's go one by one. Delicate is fragile or easily broken. Harvest is to gather the crops. Moist is slightly wet. Meticulous is paying careful attention to detail. Staple is main or important, especially regarding food. I'm sorry, that's not a noun in that case. That is an adjective describing what kind of food source is. It's a staple food, meaning it is like a necessary element of my diet. Again, retain is the to keep or hold. Again, that could be confusing, but you'd have to maybe figure it out by getting down to the last two, realizing that one is a mistake, and then you'd find the best answer. To keep or hold is going to be to retain, and debris, again, is that scattered pieces of waste. I do have some content questions. Why do we build the sides of the mud patch? Again, this is just to focus on the, I guess we'll move this guy over here. That might work if you can handle that. We do it to retain the water. I like students being able to recall the new definition, the new words, but I also like them being able to say it in their own words. So you could easily just say, hold the water, keep the water from going out, simulate a flood, however you want to put it. How often should the rice patch remain moist? You could answer that in a couple different ways. From the story, it said make sure it stays moist, remains moist. So how often should it? I mean, always, right? It should always be moist, which means you need to flood it every day. Obviously, if it rains or if it's cool enough, sometimes it stays damp for a couple days. But we're definitely going to want to keep that patch wet. It is the rainy season now. Hasn't rained in a couple days, but in the winter months, it stops raining. It's cool, easy to flood it, stays moist. What is the final product of the process described? Rice. That's all. Just rice. That's all the final process is. You got rice. And why is rice considered a staple substance? Obviously, more so in Asia than when I was in America. I eat a lot of pasta and stuff, and bread. Not that it's necessary to eat any of those, but rice is always eaten with meals, so it's staple in that sense. It's an everyday food. It's not staples necessary. Of course, there's lots of different things you can eat. Filling in the blanks here, I'm going to go through it quickly. You've got the words moist, mud, debris, delicate, substance, retain, and pound. Go ahead and try to fill them in before I do. Growing rice is a delicate process. We first clear a small mud patch. The sides are built high to retain water. It's important for the patch to stay moist for several months. At harvest time, we pound the rice husks and blow away the debris. This gives us the staple substance known as rice. Some synonym matching synonyms here. We have delicate. Now there are two that are similar that you could even say they're all four synonyms. Synonyms, remember, are not words that have the exact meaning. I like to think of synonyms as words that could be interchanged with another word in some context, which is important. In some context, I think we could say that, for instance, delicate, fragile, detailed, meticulous. You could make that stretch, but I would definitely say that delicate is with fragile, meticulous is detailed. You could definitely put, what could you do? Meticulous, I don't know, maybe not. It seemed like it was more of a multiple synonyms at the time, but anyway, you've got that. You've got harvest and gather and staple and essential. Then you have this. It might already be in order. Did I already put this in order? No, I didn't. So put this in order. You see 1 through 6. Go ahead. I'm going to start putting them in order. You try to do it before me in your head. I'm going to start out there. We're left with rice at the end. That makes sense. Definitely the mud patch is the sides of the mud patch are going to be built high. That sounds like I'm going to have to do that before I keep it moist. Of course, I'm going to blow light leaves away. That sounds, a small mud patch cleared is going to come first. I'm going to have to pound the rice before I blow away the light leaves and debris. And the next one is, this goes back to my logic. I had a logic, philosophy of logic, and I was focusing on different arguments. I want my students to be able to express themselves and to convey points. I want them to develop their debating and argumentative skills, so I give purposefully either illogical arguments or flawed arguments. Sometimes the structure is actually okay, but the something, there's some element, and I had a whole lesson on this before that described actually introduction to philosophy, and I'm talking about logic here. So I just read this and I ask my students, tell me what's wrong. They can identify it easily, but being able to express themselves, that's the purpose of this lesson. So I ask them, I've seen that all top students in my class love to read books. Books contain so much knowledge. Therefore, if you read books, you're definitely one of the smartest people around. And the word definitely right away, okay, well, not definitely, right? It's not, but even if I took that out, the argument is still flawed. It's flawed for several reasons. Go ahead and think about it, and I can kind of talk some of them through. Again, from a logic standpoint, even if I've seen that all the top students in my class love to read books, there's no necessary connection that's why. It may be that smart people like to read books, and that's not even the case, but still, if there is a causation, we don't know which direction it's going. And these are very important concepts that I like to instill in my students early on, because a lot of faulty arguments are presented in these ways, and as they get more complex, they are more difficult to recognize, but I'm recognizing them all the time. I read academic papers and I find flaws in there all the time, because my bachelor's degree is in philosophy of logic and science, and that's what we do, is study arguments, break them down to their components, and identify these flaws, these errors. Even if it's true, even if the conclusion is true, faulty arguments are problematic at its core, and we need to spot them. So there's actually a lot of these, and because I have 2 lessons, I'm not gonna go through all of them and explain why. I think you know why. You go ahead and practice. If you want to meet with me and talk about it, you can. I'm gonna read them real quickly. That they're easy. Spot the problem. Here they are: vegetables and health. Everyone says vegetables are healthy. My cousin eats a lot of carrots, which are orange, so it must be that orange food makes you healthy. Movies and popularity. All the popular kids in school talk about the latest movies. Sarah talks about movies a lot. Sarah must be one of the most popular kids in school. Dogs and loyalty. You know, all my friends who have pets say their animals are loyal, but I've noticed all of them have dogs. So I think if you have a dog, you're bound to have a loyal pet. Now this one is actually one of the more difficult ones. The word bound, does it mean, and this is with the linguistics, does bound mean necessarily or does it mean probably? I think colloquially it means probably, although if you look up the definition, it does have a stronger term, must. That's a big problem in argumentative positions that people have. You could say they're hyperbolic or just misuse of language. And that's why, philosophers, scientists would always have to identify what our terminology entails prior to presenting any ideas. Again, these are very basic, but core to so many things, so many issues actually going on right now with the attack on science, the real science, not the fake science that people try to say is set in stone in open debate about the issues can't be had for whatever reason. So, rain and umbrellas here. Every time I see people with umbrellas, it's raining. Today, no one had an umbrella. I guess it didn't rain today. Again, there's causation problems here. I'm not going to go over all of them because there are a lot of them I want to get through today. Hopefully you're thinking about them. And again, you can stop, practice, try to express. It's not just identifying the argument. Sometimes it's more difficult than that. You have to not just say, oh, that's stupid, that's ridiculous. Explain why. Where is the flaw? Sometimes there's multiple flaws. Sometimes you know it's wrong, but still being able to express it can be difficult. So people who travel have the best stories to tell. John always shares exciting stories. John must travel a lot. Money and happiness. They say money can't buy happiness, but every person I know, every rich person I know, seems really happy. So having a lot of money must make you happy. Again, even if you take the must out, that makes it obviously invalid. But even if you take that out, so having a lot of money makes you happy, or even probably makes you happy is incorrect to say. So. Music and mood. I've noticed that when there's music, people are usually dancing. Music must always make people want to dance. Everyone I know who gets 8 hours of sleep is full of energy. Sam is always tired in the mornings. Sam probably doesn't get 8 hours of sleep. Unfortunately, most of my students don't get 8 hours of sleep. I think it's detrimental to health, development, and it's counterproductive to the brain and brain development when students aren't getting enough sleep, forcing themselves to wake up. And I'm not saying there's no such thing as too much sleep, but far and few between. So let's continue with this one. Exercise and fitness. People tell me if you work out, you'll be fit. But my friend Alex works out every day and doesn't look like a movie star. Working out must not always make you fit. A lot of issues here. I'd love to go into detail with anybody that's interested. Synonyms. Here's a whole list of synonyms. Let's go through them quickly. Do your best. Let's see. Loyal, faithful, intelligence, smartness, absurd, ridiculous, evaluation, assessment, determine, assure, I think, right? Contradict, oppose, guarantee. Ooh, guarantee is assure. what would I say here? Determine is going to be. Is that happenstance? I'm going to come back to that. Guarantee was assure. Manifest is. I don't like that word, happenstance. Coincidence is. Now I'm getting all jumbled up. Resemble is mirror. All right, where are we at? I should have been crossing these out. I actually usually do. I thought I was going to bust through these. So let's go ahead and cross them out. I mean, that's what we have to do. When I was always able to do it when you cross them out. So we have, let's get them all. Okay, we've got mirror and ridiculous, which was absurd and resemble. I'm going to say loyal and faithful. We're going to say intelligence and smartness. Yeah, see, it was right when I got to evaluation. No, evaluation was easy. Evaluation was definitely assessment. We're definitely good at assessment with that one. So I hope you're trying to get these on your with me. Try to beat me to it. Contradict was definitely oppose. And guarantee is definitely assure. Coincidence is happenstance, right? I don't use that word happenstance. I was thinking of happenstance. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's got to be. Determine, display. Determine is to decide. So, I don't know how. I get all. I mean, I got all mixed up a little bit there. So manifest is display. Okay, yeah. That, I mean, it makes sense that wasn't that. I don't know. Gets tricky, but anyway, there we go. Let's keep moving. Now I do have some more difficult ones, and this one is for more advanced students. Society and norms. Everyone knows that fashion trends cycle in and out of popularity. Flared pants, otherwise known as bell-bottoms, from the 1970s, as you can see in this picture over here, became trendy again in the 2000s. And maybe they are again, or come back again, or in China it could be a different time. And vintage watches are all the rage now. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's actually an old watch or it's just a vintage-looking style watch. Similarly, if rotary phones, these ones, were popular in the past, then they definitely become a must-have item in modern homes soon. We should invest in rotary phone stocks. A lot of problems with this argument. Of course, I also like talking about dial a number. Everyone is familiar with dialing a number, but this actually comes from the rotary phone where you literally dial the number. They didn't even know how to use this. I had to show them a video on YouTube of somebody dialing a number like you know to do it, but that's where the phrase comes from. You don't dial numbers anymore, you push them. And the next one is fitness frenzy. My friend Mark works out every day for 2 hours and eats a balanced diet, yet he's not the epitome of health. Sarah, on the other hand, exercises maybe once a week and indulges in fast food but remains fit and energetic. Hence, it's evident that exercise and diet don't truly influence one's health. It's probably all about genes. Now, it's actually, in a sense, that final, I like talking about this, that final one, with more information, you could say that's probably true, but the argument is not. You can't draw that conclusion from the argument. It's a false dichotomy. Even though genes are very impactful on body types, that's not going to be established in this argument. We haven't presented any other options. I mean, the air we breathe and our stress levels and the stress levels when you were in the womb. I mean, there's all these things, but I would say it is actually probably true. I would say that in those situations, genes probably are the factor. But again, the argument is not structured. We're going to have to do a lot more to prove that. But I liked focusing on that, introducing that term, false dichotomy, and urban legends. I once heard a story about a tourist who found a secret map inside a secondhand book in Paris. The map led him to a hidden treasure in an abandoned chateau. I bought a vintage book from a Parisian bookstore last summer, so there's a strong chance it might contain a treasure map as well. A lot of problems with that, but I'm going to keep moving on. I'm trying to get to my next lesson as well. So, ecology and consumption. Electric cars are considered environmentally friendly because they don't emit greenhouse gases, yet they rely on electricity, often produced from burning coal. If we genuinely care about the environment, it might be better to walk everywhere and ditch cars altogether. Only then can we say we're doing our part. All right, so, there's some arguments in there. Obviously, it's a terrible argument, and we're going to keep moving on. But it does invoke a lot. I'm able to turn that whole entire question into all of these things and talking about, bikes and what about the manufacturing of the bikes, and then are there other opportunities to do things and this and that. There's so much more, and it gets complex. Classical music has been proven to have cognitive benefits. So I did have to teach the word cognitive to some people. That does mean thinking processes. People say listening to Mozart can boost intelligence, and Beethoven can inspire creativity. I've been listening to pop music for the last month and aced my exams, so it must be that all music genres improve brain function and performance. Again, I think there's a valid study to be done. There are aspects of music that could actually stimulate the brain in positive ways. Obviously, the argument is shit. All right, here we go. Actually, I'm going to jump to these. I said, who's their favorite teacher this year? And then I got a secret question. That's an easy question to answer. And boom, I say, if you could trade places with them for a day, what's the first thing you would do? And all of these questions, it's an easy question, then I whack them with a little more difficult question that's going to get them to think. Some of them were just saying like, oh, I'm going to go. They have access to better food, a better cafeteria or something. Some of them maybe would look through their desks, try to find information about themselves. What is the most important in your life? And my question is, how do you think our perception of time would change if humans lived for 500 years? Again, you can ask questions. Okay, does that mean you're old for 400 years? No. Let's just say you live longer, you're younger longer, middle-aged longer, and everything. Again, this just invokes a lot of conversation here. Would you want to be able to read my mind? I asked that question. It's a good question. And then, whoa, hey, there's something there. And then, how would human behavior and society change if we all suddenly gained the ability to read each other's minds? And in some ways, I would argue that we have moved away from that long before the animal kingdom arose. I would say the entire animal kingdom has shifted, but that gets really spiritual, and it is, I believe, that we do have that connection ability, but we left it a long time ago. Plants kind of do have it, I would say, and sometimes they're calling out to us. I do this, that's an extra activity, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to give you another one right now. Here we go.